going on, Jerome's beautiful Tuesday. Birds are chirping and stuff, and it's time for another Vikings news dump. So, short week. Vikings take on the Rams out in LA, Thursday Night Football. And, well, the Vikings basically get one practice. But then they'll be on their way out on Wednesday. And, of course, all the storylines in this truncated week are going to be out there. Oh, Kevin O'Connell. Oh, Sean McVay. Oh, Kevin O'Connell is tall McVay. All right, but just need to remind people that beep, bop, 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 boop. Sean McVay has won 0 goose egg D'Angelo Russell Super Bowls without Kevin O'Connell. No big deal. And you know who got a lot of credit for getting Stafford up to speed on the offense as well as getting OBJ all up in there? The tall guy. Yeah, the tall guy on the right. No big deal. So we'll see. It's not even like a teacher and pupil situation because I think they're about the same age. Doesn't matter. Either way, it's going to be good to go. Also good to go is Cooper Kupp. Now, I don't like stars missing games because of injuries, especially when the Vikings play them, because then it gives the jabronis a built-in excuse. Well, we didn't have No. But Cooper Kupp, the pride of Yakima, pride of Eastern Washington, go Eagles. Well, that's the only time I've ever said go Eagles. Anyways, but Cooper Kupp coming back from that ankle injury. They're still without Puka Nacua. They're still without several offensive linemen, but they're starting to trend in the right direction, and it's okay. Best versus best. Great litmus test for the Vikings, and, you know, the Vikings struggled against slot merchant Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know what's funny? I think the Lions team account put out a video of Amon-Ra and his touchdown from the slot, and they're like, oh, slot merchant. You literally showed a video of him scoring a touchdown from the slot. It's not proving the argument that you think it is. But Cooper Kupp. So Cooper Kupp basically should have been league MVP, the year that he had monster numbers, mainly working from the slot. So it's going to be something that Flores and company going to have to work on in a short week with very limited practice time. But bring it. That's the name of the game in the National Football League. Also, speaking of games, Vikings will be playing 2 primetime games in a row, Thursday night against the Rams, and then 2 Sundays from now against the Indianapolis Colts Week 9. That thing got flexed for whatever reason. Pelissero, blah, 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 flex, Sunday Night Football. The game it is replacing is Jaguars-Eagles, and they're replacing them because the Jaguars kind of stink, even though they beat the Patriots, whatever. And also, I don't know, Doug Peterson might be fired in a week. No. But either way, yeah, the Eagles aren't good as well. All right. And the Colts, the Colts are 4-3, and also they have Anthony Richardson plus Stephon Gilmore revenge game. And of course, the comeback narratives will certainly be there too. So I understand it. Plus, the Vikings, despite the blowout 2-point loss to the allegedly best team in the National Football League, the Vikings are still interesting. The Vikings are still tier 1 in this league, and it'll do numbers. So there you go. Also, like I said, the Vikings are going to have truncated practice this week because of Thursday Night Football. So they had a simulated injury report. No practice on Monday. They'll have a walkthrough on Tuesday, travel on Wednesday. But what's interesting is that, so you pick up tendencies on the coaches in terms of what they do with the injury report. Zimmer was always playing things very close to the chest. It's sort of an old school mentality. If you're not having your thumb down on the scale, if you're not trying to put out disinformation, you're not trying, right? And O'Connell is definitely, he almost over-reports, right? So you consistently see players that have had injuries in the past, but they're still full participants, but they'll still be listed on the injury report, right? Or they're very judicious in giving rest, whether it's limited practice or DNP to players who are either old or minorly dinged up, and then they play. All right, so O'Connell doesn't play games with the injury report, but it's interesting that Dalton Reisner, come on up for the Reisner, even though he's still on his 21-day return window from IR, he was listed as full participant with the back, even on the simulated injury report. Now, they easily just could have put limited, and the Rams could have been like, yum, we're getting Ed Ingram again, but it's pretty significant that he was listed as full. Now, we'll see what happens on Tuesday when they actually have a real practice, a.k.a. a walkthrough. But I think that's a positive sign. I think right now, I think Cashman's clearly out. He was listed as DNP. I think that Hockenson is a toss-up. We'll talk about him in a second. And I think Reisner plays. And I think if he plays, he's going to start. So that's my prediction there. Also, In some Vikings Rooster news. I talked about this yesterday, but the Vikings shuffled the deck at the bottom of the roster. Calvin Munson, linebacker with experience with Brian Flores, both in New England as well as with the Dolphins. He joins the practice squad, primarily been a special teamer. Has had 7 starts throughout his career as an off-ball linebacker. I think that trying to get a little bit of depth, hedging your bets with Cashman outside. How about that? And also Tristan Jackson, who was waived last week, returns to the practice squad. N'Keal Harry has been released from the practice squad. I think it says a lot about where they see Hockenson, so they can free themselves up a little bit of tight end depth in that spot. Also, it's funny. Like, there's a bunch of Lions fans that are still hanging around the comments, even though the game happened on Sunday. I feel like what's going to happen is that they're going to fall in love with this. The dad jokes, the mildly entertaining perspective on things. Yeah. The fourth grade English depictions of things. But I think that so it's interesting. The media is still running with the Vikings Lions. It was a great game, blah, blah, blah. I mean, overall, like, it was a great game except for the Vikings giving it away. But other than that, all right. But these two teams probably could meet again in the playoffs. NFC title game, bring that ish on, preferably at historic US Bank Stadium. But numbers-wise, like, it is sort of freaky how close things were, even though started out big for the Vikings, and then the Lions had all the momentum. Then the Vikings got it back, and then the Lions made a play at the end when the Vikings didn't. All right, but they were close in time of possession, passing yards, rushing yards, penalties, even though it seemed like the Lions definitely got more high leverage penalties as well as a bunch of no calls, but argument for another day. Also, the Harrison Phillips fumble. Yeah. This irks me even more. So you never want to say that players fake injuries, but it was very convenient that Josh Paschal, who was healthy enough to get a sack late in the game, had a couple of injuries when the Vikings were going tempo, just sort of laid down. Yeah. And also the Jalen Naylor review of the scoop and score for Brian Branch, when his foot was clearly out of bounds, and they were talking about the heel. Who cares about the heel? His toe was out of bounds. It doesn't matter. But they literally stopped the game for 10 minutes to give the Lions defense a breather. Just how convenient how that just happened. Not saying, I'm just saying. Also, 4 sacks apiece, right? And it's funny. It's like they're almost inventing stats now, just to pat the Lions on the back. Like, they're bending over backwards. Fox Sports, exactly 50 years ago today was the last time the Lions beat a 5-0 team. That day they also beat the Vikings. So 5-0, beating a 5-0 team for the first time since October 20th, 1974. So 1974, pretty good year. But hey, the Lions, what happened? What happened that year? Oh, you finished second in the division, you lost 7 games, and you were behind the Vikings. I think history will repeat itself. I still think that the Lions, I mean, yeah, they're puffing up their chests and they're playing some damn good football right now, except I think they can get got. I mean, they got by this god-awful Buccaneers team right now that's getting boat raced by the Ravens, right? Also, so you see how the 1974 season ended. Like, Lions lost 7 games, finished second in the division. We won't talk about how the 1974 season ended, although, not going to lie, as someone who has never been alive when the Vikings lost the Super Bowl and had to be relayed stories of glory lost from my dad, my grandpa, I'll take a Super Bowl loss in my lifetime, as long as it means that we got there. Because all I have to pass on to my chillin' is NFC title game losses. You know how embarrassing that is? All right. But now we sound like the Lions just rehashing woulda, coulda, shoulda in NFC title games. Not that that's happened recently. Yeah. Speaking of Lions, so this broke late last night. Schefter, Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams is facing a 2-game suspension for violating the NFL's performance-enhancing substances PES. When did they change? PES? Oh, he got his pills from his Pez dispenser. Policy sources told ESPN's Eric Woodyard. Yeah. Now, what's interesting is that Jamo had 1 catch for -4 yards, and that's performance enhancing. Yeah. And also, it's only 2 games, so it's gonna be interesting when the details fully come out, because it probably Michael Pierce. Hey, remember Michael Pierce was a Viking for 2 seconds, but because usually in PEDs at least 6. So is it something minor? Like, did he get like the boner pills from the gas station? Like, what is happening here? Like, is this like a John Jones thing? I don't know, man. I don't know. But, I'm not going to harp on it, but it's very clear that even though Jameson Williams had a very crappy game, he was on performance-enhancing drugs, which are against the rules. So I'm not saying that the Lions should have to forfeit this game because they played a player who is clearly cheating, but I'm not saying that, if you know what I mean. We'll just put an asterisk by that game. No, there you go. I don't care. He had one catch for -4 yards. Yeah. Also, so the future is still bright. And slinging Sam Darnold, I love him. I mean, there's still a chance that he could turn things around and be that guy. Because frankly, objectively, he played okay throughout most of the game. The interception and the 3rd and 4 aside. But, I mean, J.J. McCarthy's the future. I mean, there's a reason why he's the highest drafted quarterback in team history. Also, could you imagine the circus if McCarthy was healthy right now? Like every single Darnold incompletion. Boo. I don't think 14 could handle that. Anyways, but J.J. McCarthy already looking to the future, already back on the sidelines, which is fantastic. McCarthy, adversity is the way of evolution. A leaf survives the rain, but uses it to grow. It doesn't realize its deepest pain will one day become its greatest gain. Now, people lambasted me because I didn't understand the Plato's Cave thing. Like, how could you not know about that? Oh, me so sigh. Me so sigh. Instead of book learning, I was working in a coal mine, which means I probably should have gotten that analogy. Doesn't matter. But the whole thing about it is that J.J. McCarthy is a very philosophical, deep, upbeat person, and I love that. I dig that about him. And yeah, it kind of sucks having that setback where you still get the full rookie experience. He's still in those meeting rooms. He's still in practices, but he's just not getting those practice reps. And maybe he would have unseated Darnold and started, right? But it is what it is. Next year, he'll be 22 years young and will likely be handed the keys to one of the best offenses in the game. And it's going to be a lot of friggin' fun. So, buckle up for J.J. McCarthy. That's what makes you feel good about the season, too, because it almost feels like you're playing with house money. No one had high expectations for the Vikings. And even though the Vikings don't have a ton of draft picks in the middle rounds next year, you already have your future franchise quarterback, and you already have your talisman on the edge. Right? So some Vikings fans have been sort of venting frustration. Is like, how come we don't see Dallas Turner? How come we don't do this? How come we don't do that? Right? And Turner played 4 defensive snaps against the Lions on Sunday. He's got 1 sack on the season. He's got about 4 pressures. And even though he had a nice 4th down run stop against the Jets, a lot of people are frustrated. It's like, well, we gave up 6-7 draft picks for him, so he should be contributing right away. Who do you take off the field? Do you take Jonathan Grenard, who's leading the team in pressures, has an 18% pressure rate and has 5 sacks? Do you take him off the field? Do you take Andrew Van Ginkel, pick 6 machine and guy who has 5 sacks? Do you take him off the field? Patrick Jones II, a guy who also has 5 sacks. Do you take him off the field? Hadi Ward, whose versatility inside, outside, stand up, sit down, all around is greatly valued. Do you take him off the field? Probably not. So it is a numbers game, and as Kevin O'Connell explained it, Will Raggett, Sports Illustrated, Kevin O'Connell on rookie Dallas Turner, Diamond Dallas Turner, who played just 4 defensive snaps on Sunday. He's going to be an absolute monster for us. Turner happens to be behind 3 excellent outside linebackers, still learning and growing with a pretty complex defense. And yeah, I mean, Turner, in this Flores defense, it is very complicated. There's a lot of communication on the fly. There's a lot of site adjustments. There's a lot of changes, right? And yeah, could you block out a handful of plays every single week where he just has one directive? Hey, Dallas, stand here and rush the passer? Sure. But the way that he is handling his business, he's always standing next to Mike Pettin on the sideline. He's always getting feedback and information. He's always asking guys like Darisaw, guys like Kevin O'Connell, ways to get better, all that stuff. I have no issues with it because remember, Dallas Turner's only 21, J.J. McCarthy's only 21. The future is insanely bright on both sides of the ball. Yeah. Also insanely bright is the future of this Vikings freaking offense once T.J. Hockenson gets back. A Vikes fan page. According to Alec Lewis, he is 50-50 with Crystal Ball on if Vikings tight end T.J. Hockenson returns against the Rams on Thursday. Minnesota is clearly taking a long-term approach with Hawkinson's recovery. If he does play on Thursday, Lewis notes that Hockenson will likely be integrated slowly back into the offense and shouldn't expect to see an immediate heavy snap count, which, to a degree, it's fine. And Darnold hasn't had that middle of the field constant security blanket. right? And that's the problem. Like, when Darnold's been dropping back, it has seemed like he's just been looking for the deep shot over and over and over again. And you saw it against the Lions where he'd have a good pocket and he would step up and he wouldn't find anything downfield. And Darnold doesn't have a problem with progressions. He's perfectly fine with that. So I want to know if it's receivers not getting open or poor play design or Darnold just not taking what's underneath, right? But if and when Hockenson is back, that adds another dimension because, you're going to cover Jefferson and Addison and Naylor deep? You're going to take away Aaron Jones out of the backfield? TJ Hockenson, a little shallow cross, a little sitting down in the hook zone, no problem. Right. I think Hockenson is going to be huge when he gets back. I think it's going to solve a lot of issues with the Vikings offense. Also, another issue is what's going on in that second half. Vikes fan page again. Vikings have been a different team in the first half compared to the second half of the season. First half outscored opponents 96-45, a plus 51-point differential. Also, they got out to 10 double-digit leads in each of the last 4 games. 5 games. Each of the last 5 games before the other team scored a point. Yeah, so they start fast. Second half adjustments. They've only outscored opponents 72-62, which is not great. All right, so Vikings. Also, what's insane is that the first half also includes the Lions putting up 21 in the second quarter. So that's how dominant the Vikings have been in the first halves. So they got to figure it out. And I'm sure that they will. Hockenson being back is going to be a huge part of that. Slinging Sam Darnold, America's quarterback, getting back and having some confidence is going to be good as well. So there you go. But that's it. Vikings news done for this beautiful Tuesday. You guys are the best you know what to do. Skull production value.